we are going to create an object which is the scissors, which is again chosen by a number of you guys. So we're just going to attempt a tutorial on that. So if I were to look back, I have found a pair of scissors which is looking quite high res. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to import this picture into Maya, so that again this is just to give you an idea on what you can do with your reference images and how they can help you with your modeling process. Okay, so back in Maya, I'm going to head over to the top view. So again, you can either go to panels, orthographic, top view, or if you tap your space bar, you can also go to the top view. Okay. Again, my preferred method is just holding down my space bar, clicking and dragging on the Maya. Okay, top view. Okay, so in any case, I'm going to set up an image here. So go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. All right. So I'm just going to select again my location. Okay. So from here itself, we will need to kind of rotate this. Okay. So deselect first, and then if you reselect, you're going to be able to see the container here. Okay, the channel box. So if I rotate this, I'm going to be able to tell where is it rotating to, so I can specify the value at 45. Okay, and in fact X is pointing that way, so perhaps I want it to be positive instead. Sorry. 90, 135. Okay, so once I have this, because the object itself is still able to be selected, so it's not so ideal. So I'm gonna be creating a layer for it. So with the image plane selected, I can go to layers, create layer from selected. So from here, the first one is visibility. Okay, second one is just, I think, if I recall correctly, it's just picture, which I'm just going to leave it. On the third one is transparent and reference. So I'm just going to set to reference, so that once I deselect it, I'm not going to be able to select the image plane anymore. Okay, so this works with all objects as well. So I'm just going to double click, say image plane layer. Okay, so once if let's say I have other objects, say a cube or whatever it is, right, I can always with the cube selected, right mouse button and say add selected objects. Okay, and now in fact my cube will be gone. Okay, so maybe something like this so that you can tell. Okay, so right now I just want to select the cube and I want to remove these selected objects. Alright, so with this cube, right, they are, again, because of the shader itself, basically the color on the surface, we are not going to be able to see things below, right? So this is where we can, if we need to, we can go to X-ray and then we can start seeing the geometry passing through and looking at the image below. All right, so this is one way of working. Okay, so with this, there are a couple of ways that we can do when it comes to creating the shapes, okay, as needed. So from here, we can tell that it's probably a torus, then followed by something. But again, most of the time I prefer to use something a little bit more low poly than use a torus. Like for example a torus, something like that, even if I were to kind of lower it. So let's say, okay, so even if I lower to something like this, again, it's probably not that ideal. Okay, so what I would do is I would create a cylinder. So I'm just going to go to the top view. Okay, so from here, I know that this itself is just an elongated kind of torus, but I can also create a torus from a cylinder. So I'm just going to show you really quickly how that can be done. So first of all, set up the heights into 0.5. Okay, and I'm going to add additional subdivision cap. Okay, and likely I am going to decrease this first before I want to keep it as low as possible. Okay, essentially. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the faces here. Okay, I'm just going to marquee select so that the top faces and the bottom faces are selected. Okay, and then just remove it by backspace. Okay, and then I'm just going to maybe make that disappear for a while, and then I'm just going to select, double click and double click. Okay, shift double click on the second one. So again, double click on the first one to select the top ring, shift double click to have the additional selection there. So from here I'm going to shift right mouse button and say bridge. Okay, this should help us bridge across, and I'm not going to increase anything as of yet, so I'm just going to click on the pointer tool here to end off the operation. So from here, if I were to turn off the X-ray, you can tell that if I go to object mode, you can tell that this is pretty faceted, right? So some things that I can do is I can go to shift right mouse button, soften and harden, soften and harden. So in this little square here, this option box, right now it's set at 30, so I can always set to say 45 and hit apply, and immediately it's going to look smoother, okay, on the circular edges. So okay, from here we go back to X-ray. Okay, top view again. Right, so from here I can start to select all the vertices. Okay, again go to vertex mode, select all the vertices, and maybe just kind of elongate that for a while, and then just kind of again assign the shape, kind of fix the shape according to what it is. So like for example over here, maybe I'm just going to move it accordingly. Okay, we are not looking for precision here, so just something along these lines would be fine. Later on we can always add in a little bit more points. Okay, so example here, and if let's say you find that maybe it would actually come out from here, then you can always just make a rough estimate. Okay. All right. So yeah. So just kind of fix all this. Move the points to where you think they are best fitted. So maybe I'm just going to fit it over there, and for this one I'm probably going to put it at the end here. So likewise for this one. So yes, I noticed that it is not going to be it is not going to be that accurate, because you can tell that here it's a little bit more rounded, and even for here I'm missing one section here. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I can sort of resolve that. So if you go to shift right mouse button again, you can see multi-cuts, right? Now if you multi-cuts, right, if you hold down the control key, you find that you're getting a line instead. So in fact, if I go to the perspective view, turn that off. Okay, if I do multi-cut, you can tell that it's going to create a ring, very much like your insert edge loop. Okay, so that would be a easy way of creating the additional divisions that are needed. So from here I can start to again create even more definition. Okay, so let's say over here, again, multi-cut tool. All right. And maybe I'm just gonna move this over here and move this somewhere around there. Okay, so again, the idea is trying to make sure that I don't get um, too angular when it comes to putting in the divisions. So as you can tell, if you look at the edges are basically trying to be as perpendicular as possible, okay, and still following the shape. Okay, so this is what we would want to achieve. Okay, so again, if it is necessary, you can just, you know, add the divisions to fix stuff. And even here, maybe it's too much, right? I can always move it up a little bit more. So try to kind of spread them out to have the best results. Okay, and at the same time try to get it as perpendicular as possible. And again, as I've mentioned, if needed, we can always add more divisions to it. Okay, so let's say I have that already, right? So what I need would be the shape here, right? So I can now start to select, say, that part there. Now it will be ideal if I'm able to get a picture of the thickness as well, so that I can in fact get the most accurate way to create the proportion. Okay, so I'm just gonna select vertices again. So as I extrude, I start to, you know, cue in the points. So maybe just gonna put it there. Extrude again, and you probably can tell that I use the move tool to kind of do the to move the extrude opposed to using the gizmo. Okay, again, it really isn't a fixed way to create or to reposition your objects or your components. Okay, so yes, so I'm just gonna move it. So maybe over there, something along those lines. Because this part here, I will probably recreate as another shape before packing it into, packing it over to the center here. Okay, so we extrude again. Okay, so as usual, I'm not trying to go for 100% accuracy. Okay, right now what I'm doing is I'm just using a low poly way of working. Okay, and probably is still looking a little bit too thick. So maybe let me just make this a little bit thinner. Okay, so in fact, again, these two ends are the same, so probably since this is the part where it's showing, what I can do is I can just flip this across, right? Or maybe I can start working on this, right? So to work on this is again, it's not that difficult. Okay, so what can be done is I can create a cube, right, and then um, again kind of mimic the heights. Okay, so maybe it's 0.5, 0.4. Okay, somewhere around there. Oops. Okay, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit smaller. Okay, 0.2. Okay. Sometimes it may be difficult to control the value, so you might want to in fact enlarge the or scale up the image before you start building your objects. Right. So let's see whether if this is the best way. Well, sometimes this may not be the best way, so we are just kind of trying what would be the potentially the best way. So sometimes, like, I might even try it out based on a sphere, right? In this case, maybe a sphere might be a better choice, looking at how it's, you can tell that how this is formed. So from here, maybe I can start to say can start selecting. So I'm just gonna select the faces that are going to be removed, and maybe not at this time. I might want to increase the cap first. Okay, and as I increase the cap, in this case, I will need to kind of move it over there a little bit. So I'm just gonna double click on this. Okay, on the top ring and the bottom ring. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the top view, and I'm going to use my scale tool and scale in the 2-dimension, somewhere around there. Okay, so next thing, select face, select all the center faces, remove it. Okay, and then I'm going to remove all these faces as well. Okay, so only essentially leaving this, right? Okay, so at the same time, I think this is way too tall. So I'm going to scale it up a little bit more. Okay, somewhere there. Okay, so from here, I can select the edges here, create a bridge. Okay, and I can also do a bridge here. Oops. Okay, probably I'm going to do it one at a time. Okay, so you can double check by turning off the X-ray mode and the shading X-ray, right? So this would be perfect. Okay, so from here, I will need to find out a little bit more on to produce the edges. So looking at over here, so again, like I said, we are not going to be so specific about things. So we're just going to look at, okay, so probably one at each, right? So if I do this multi-cut, hold down shift to get a midpoint, and then hold down control at the same time, I can cut right in the middle. Okay, something along those lines. Right, next thing that I will want to do is I'm gonna select the faces behind. Okay, So I'm going to shift double click, okay, and then shift double click again, and then here. Now, because if I were to shift double click at the end at one stroke, sometimes it may not do the right selection. So I'm gonna remove the back faces because eventually this is going to be merged to this surface there, right? Okay, so from here, the next thing that we are going to do is I'm going to go back to the top view. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Okay, so from here I will need to check. Okay, so maybe this would need to move in. Maybe not. Yeah, I probably need one more over here. So yeah, so I'm just gonna select that. Move it in. Move it in. Okay, so something along these lines. And of course, at the same time, it's best to make the necessary adjustments. So probably from here, I want to move it over. Maybe I'm just gonna leave it. Instead, for this guy here, I will move it accordingly. Okay, so from here I can tell that probably I will need one more point. So I can always make a multi-cut again. Okay, over there. Then move this point over. Okay, so likewise, if I need to, I can again make some additional cuts. Okay, just to make sure that the points kind of match up. Okay, so something along these lines, and all right, something like that, and again, just kind of shift it accordingly. Okay, so from here, if you need to turn on the shading also on the wireframe on shaded, okay, again, it's going to be useful to tell which points are over where, so that you can kind of make sure that you are moving correctly. Okay, so from here I am able to tell I'll need one more. Okay, so for this one, probably I'm going to park it over here so that I can have I will be able to create some additional cuts. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so with this I can now select both the objects. Okay, and actually before I do that, if you recall, these objects faces at the front here is still not removed yet, so I will need to remove these faces. Okay, so backspace again after the selection. Then I'm gonna select the two objects here. Okay, shift right mouse button, combine. Okay, so once it's combined, few things that I can essentially do. I can start selecting the vertices. Okay, so let's say I'm just gonna select all the top ones. Oops. Okay, shift right mouse button, merge vertices, and again just do take note of the threshold. So let's say 0.1. Okay, so you can probably tell that most of it will be merge. Okay, so once that is done, okay, I can go back to my pointer tool to end off the operation. So let's say for something like this, right, which I have forgotten to add one more point, I can go back to multi-cut. Okay, so I'm just going to park it right there. Select the 2 points, merge vertices. Okay, so now I'm going to merge the ones below. Okay, so I'm going to select this. Okay, merge vertices. And set it to 0.1. Okay, so once that is done, just click on your selection tool to end off the operation. So now if I turn off my X-ray mode, okay, I should be able to see something. Okay, so this is still not too bad. Later on we can always increase the definition here. Okay, so just for information again, if you hit the keyboard number 4, this is going to wireframe mode. So in wireframe mode, this is you can tell that it's only giving you the lines, right? You're able to see through everything. So hitting keyboard number 5 will bring up the shaded mode. Okay, and alternate 5 will bring up the wireframe on shaded mode. So let me just key in this quickly. Okay, so 4 goes to wireframe, 5 shaded, and then off, 5 wireframe plus shaded. Okay, so this will give you a good idea on what to press, right? So if I hit number 4 again, wireframe, okay. So if I turn off the image, okay, I can only see the wireframe of the scissors handle. 5 is shaded. Okay, odd 5 would be turning on and off the wireframe and shaded mode. Okay. All right. So from here, I'm going to kind of bring this across, right? So first of all, I want to remove all this history. So select the objects under Edit, delete by type, history. Again, we want to remove all construction history because Maya is going to read every single line when you start working on it again on next day or whatever next week, right? And if it skips one line, your file is going to get corrupted. Okay, so in any case, I'm just going to create a copy over. So I'm going to go to duplicate. I'm going to do it on duplicate special. Go to the option box. Okay, and in the past we have used copy, so now we're going to use instance. So what instance means is that um, whatever changes that you made on one will be affecting the other. So I'm just going to set this to -1, hit apply. So I made a mistake here, so maybe not -1, this should be Z instead. Okay, so maybe I need to change my pivot point first. Okay, so by changing pivot point, you can tap the D key, and I'm gonna snap it on the grid. Okay, snap to grid, and bring this across so that it's along the grid. Now turn the grid off, and tap the D key again to turn off the pivot change. So I'm gonna duplicate special again. Oops. -1. Okay, so now it should be creating the other half. So what I mean when it's instance is when I select this, you can tell both are selected, and whatever changes I make, you can tell that it's affecting the other. Okay, so this is what instance is for. Okay, so from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the fill part of the scissors. So from here, I'm going to say either use multi-cut tool to kind of create this, right, so that it can be transported there, or what can be done in a more efficient way is I will select this face, okay, and I'm going to extrude. So shift right mouse button, extrude, okay, and then what you can do is I'm just going to use the scale tool over here, okay, and I'm going to scale it. Actually not the best idea. Probably scale it using the manipulator is better, I guess. Okay, so I'm just gonna scale it and move it there. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so from here you can start to even create or extrude. So I'm just gonna extrude one more time. Okay, so go to this, or you can just hit the Control E, which might be a little bit faster. So I'm gonna move this. I'm just gonna use my move tool to move this out. Okay, and shading, X-ray. Okay, so I'm just gonna maybe move up to there, and then kind of change the vertex. And probably somewhere around there. Okay, so because again, if you look at the shape from here all the way down, pretty much it's a very linear path, right? And if the other handle, again, if it is not necessary to be shown, you can always create another layer, okay, and turn that off. And I'm going to call this the scissors instance layer. Okay, so for this layer, I'm just gonna work on it, right? Okay, so in fact, if you do know, later on we can fix the how high it is or how low it is. Okay, so I'm just gonna select the face again, and I'm gonna extrude. So if you want to, you can hit Control E. Okay, again, I prefer to use the Control E to kind of do these things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all the way to the end here, right? And and from here, I'm going to go to vertex mode. Let's see, oops, I think yeah. Okay, let me just leave it there for the time being. And maybe I'm just going to remove this totally so that it doesn't confuses us or me in this case. So I'm just going to select that face again. Make sure that it's still the same. Okay, extrude, move it all the way out. Okay, go to the top view. Okay, so what I'm going to do is scale this to something like that. And you can tell that this is not aligned, so I'm just going to click and drag here to make it aligned. Okay, and move it out a little bit. So from here, right, you can tell that it probably needs additional divisions. So from here, I'm just going to go to Insert Edge Loop Options. Okay, and what I can do is I can use the multiple edge loops. So in this case, maybe I'll add about maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, 5 might be a good number. Okay, so 5 edge loops. And once I set in the number as well as use equal multiplier, I can click and immediately it's going to give me a well-distributed edges that will be created across. So from these edges, I can now start to move the vertices. Okay, so I'm just gonna move it this way. Okay, so from here you can easily tell what has been done. Okay, so if I turn off the image, okay, and I turn off the X-ray, okay, so pretty much we have half the scissors done already. Okay, so if I want to you know, make this a little bit better, okay, so what I'm going to do is I can select these faces, okay, and bring it up a little bit more. And the reason is because the scissors later on has the bottom side, right? So that is what we want to do. And from here, I can start to increase the divisions. So for example, here might be a good choice to create this. Okay, so that I can kind of make it a little bit sharper. Okay, if need be. Okay, likewise the back part here, or the handle part, very likely is going to be a little bit rounded. Right, so I'm just going to move it out a little bit. Right, so for this back, move it out a little bit, and maybe expand, use the scale tool to kind of making sure that, you know, it fits how it's supposed to look. So for this one, just make it a little bit more. Okay, so likewise for the insides, so I'm just gonna select the midpoint, okay, and use my multi-cut tool to create that loop, and use the scale tool to make it a little bit more rounded. Okay, so up here, if you need to, you can also create that roundedness. And there are some other tools that definitely you can try to use. So for example, I'm going to select the inside here, okay, and double click on the bottom here. Okay, so I'm creating the two loops, right? Selecting the two loops. Shift right mouse button, I can go to bevel, right? And I can make this fraction a little bit smaller. Okay. So likewise for this one, I can select the upper and lower, and if need be, I can also create that same bevel. Okay. Okay, but just bear in mind that you're gonna get something like this, and you will need to fix it. So in this case, how I would fix, I would multi-cut. So from here, I'm gonna cut it across to down here. Okay, so this will be four-sided, and I know that this is going to be looking like it's five-sided. So in fact, now what can be done further is I can make that cut, okay, and then multi-cut again from here to here. Okay, likewise from here to the. Okay, so for this one, I can also cut across. So very likely I'm gonna multi-cut first. Okay, so then from here I'm gonna cut across. Okay, so for now you can use this method of fixing stuff as you are creating more and more details, right? So again, from here, just remember to delete history. Okay. So the next thing, once you have a lot of the details, right? Actually, before I go into that, let me just go into X-ray again to create this circle. So I'm just gonna create a cylinder. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it right there. Reduce the radius. Okay, so maybe 0.4. Okay, 0.4 seems good enough. And then the next thing is I will need to go to the front view. Okay, so the height is a bit too much, so maybe 0.3. Maybe still too high, 0.2. Okay, so 0.2 might be a good height, so I'm just gonna set it to 2 again, so that I'm trying out to do it based on halves, right? Whether if it's a top half or medium half, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so from here, in fact, I need to make sure that it's the bottom half. Okay, so so something like this, I'm gonna increase the cap segments as well. Maybe I'm increase it to 3. Okay, so meaning to say the cap segment here, and again, I won't be I will be only working with half, so I'm just going to select half the objects. Okay, remove it. So for this one, okay, I'm going to select the faces. Actually, I'm going to select all these faces. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly bring them out, so a little bit here. And to deselect this entire loop, hold down the Control key, and then select, click once and double click on the adjacent face. Okay. And for this last part here, bring it out a little bit more. And even for these edges, I can bring it down further. And of course, if I need to, I can bevel the edge. to something like that. Okay, which will look fine. So the next thing that I will want to do is kind of flip this across. So this will be the y-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicates by Control D. Okay, duplicates. Okay, and on the scale Y, I'm going to -1. Okay, so now this would be half. Right, so I'm going to select the two, shift right mouse button, combine. Okay, gonna go to the front view, select the vertex face, the vertex component, and then select all the vertices in the middle, shift right mouse button, merge vertices, and then merge vertices. Okay, so if you need to check, you can always check whether if they are pairing. Okay, you can check whether if they are pairing. So so for the knot there, that is how I would do it. And for this little guy here, so what we are going to do is we kind of need to flip it, right? So select that object, and I'm going to duplicate. Okay, so this is a separate duplicate, and I'm going to flip it across. So this is the z-axis, right? So this would be +1, right? And I'm going to flip on the y-axis, right? And I'm going to turn off X-ray. Okay, so from here I can safely tell how it looks. Okay, so if the scissor splits are supposed to be a little bit taller, then you can always fix it. Like for example, I can always go to the edit, duplicate special. Okay, turn it into an instance. So this time around this is 1 and this is -1. Hit apply. Okay, so what's going to happen is if I turn that second scissors and that selected object, okay, I'm going to just set that as the reference. So I'm going to select all this, right? Turn that back on, and from here I can move it so I can roughly tell whether if they are creating any issues. Okay, so sometimes before you even do that, what you can do is you can even increase the beveling so that you can tell whether if they are having any issues. Okay, you can create all the details, whatever that you need. Okay, so for this bottom one, I think I forgot to change this to, oops. Okay, so I need to set this to 1. Okay, and if this thing is a little bit too small, of course you can scale it up a little bit more and kind of move it down. Okay, and of course take note, do name your objects properly. Okay. And last but not least, as you can tell, there are some values here, which is not something that we want. So let me just go ahead and delete history first. And last of all, we are going to use the modify freeze transformation. Okay, so this will get rid of all these values and reset it back to 0. And for this one, okay, because this is an instance object, so it's not going to allow you to do so until you turn it into objects, which I will show it to you later. So I'm just going to make this cut. Quickly first, because essentially what I want to do, I just want to make this a little bit, look a little bit better. So for this one, I'm just gonna turn it into a triangle. Okay, so as mentioned, one triangle is always fine, and if you really want to fix it, you can always fix it later on. Okay, so delete history again, and I'm gonna name this scissor. Oops, should be right. Left. And no. So to make things a little bit more interesting, of course you can change the pivot point. So let's say I'm just gonna change the pivot point to here, right? So I'm just gonna turn on snap to point. Okay, over there, and as well as let me see. Okay, so yeah, so because this is an instance, so it have not been changed yet. So let me again change it. Okay, so since an instance object, let me just switch this. So you can go to modify. That is a convert objects. So convert, you can convert instance to objects. So now that you should be able to change this properly. So I'm just gonna switch that and then go to the top view. Okay. So now your scissors would be working as if it is a real scissors, right? So again, modify freeze transform because I want to reset back to 0. Okay. So there you have it. The scissors is done. So I hope that this will give you a good idea on how to create your model. All right. Thank you for watching.